Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today in the webinar regarding the withdrawal of the Spanish Golden Visa. And as we know, this has kind of been a hot topic. We've now got a very accurate timescale for when it will be withdrawn. So I'll share that with you today. I'll share everything we know. So what I'm going to do, we've got a few people joining here. I'll share my screen and I'll go through what I'm going to cover off today. But as I say, as we know, the Spanish Golden Visa is going. We knew that last year. It's taken a while to get through all the hurdles and the hoops it has to go through, but we now have a very clear picture of the timescales for this. So we'll go through that today. We'll cover a number of points, and by the end of today, you should really have a very good idea about whether you still have time. So as I say, my name's Sam Daines. I'm a senior manager here at Holborn Assets. On the screen here, you've got my WhatsApp number and my telephone number, which is 00447969059122. It's a UK number. I'm actually based over here in Spain, but you can WhatsApp me or phone me on that number if you have any personal questions regarding your own situation. Needless to say, at the moment, time is of the essence. So anybody looking to do anything really needs to, it will become apparent, needs to do something as soon as possible. My email there as well is sam.daines@holbornassets.com. So if you want to have a free review, it's all free, but we can go through your current situation. Please reach out to me on that number or that email, and I can go through your situation. So as I say, we know that the Spanish Golden Visa is going. We know the dates it's going. We didn't know quite what it was going to look like until very recently, which I'll come on to. But essentially, the Golden Visa is going, not just the property element, but all elements of the Golden Visa are going, which I will cover off today. So what I do is I'll go through really what I'm going to cover, and then we can sort of go through any questions you may have at the end. So what I'll do is I'll start off by telling you just a little bit about who we are in case you don't know and how we can potentially help you. So that's Holborn Assets. We have Holborn Pass, which is part of Holborn Assets. So we set up about 8 years ago, and that is the arm of Holborn which deals with people looking for residency and citizenship. Obviously, today I'm talking about the Spanish program, but we don't just do Spain. We do all different programs that are out there. So we do that as well. We'll talk about the changes to the Golden Visa and whether there's still time. Which obviously is the key, I think, for a lot of people. What is the time scales for withdrawal? So we'll go through that. We know very clearly now what that is. I'll go through a little bit about our services, exactly what we do. As I say, the program and timeline for this. We've actually brought in some particularly unique ways of doing this. People still are looking to get the Golden Visa. If they want to use our services, we can do it, which I'll come on to, and there is a way of doing it, but as I say, we're fighting against time here a little bit. We'll talk about what the process and the benefits of the Golden Visa are, and we'll give you the option or the options that we have if you're looking to do it, which we can get through in time. We have got a guarantee that we will get that through on time if you wanted to do it. And then obviously we can do any questions and answers at the end if we have time. So we'll cover all of that today. And then, as I say, we'll cover any questions at the end. So just a little bit about Holborn Assets and Holborn Pass, if you're not aware. So Holborn Assets, we started back in 1998. We're a British family firm. We've got now over 500 employees all around the globe. We've got 22 international offices, included one here in Spain, which is down in south of Spain. So we're in the Malaga region in Spain. I work out the office in Malaga. We've also got offices in Portugal. We've got offices in Dubai, offices in South Africa. We position ourselves all over the globe so that we can offer financial advice to people looking for example, the Golden Visa. We can continue to give them financial advice when they move to the location that they're going to. So we're all qualified to give that advice. We've now got over around 25,000 clients now worldwide, and we look after around 2.5 billion in funds under management. So we've got a lot of experience with this. But what became apparent to us as a company around 8 or 9 years ago was that essentially a lot of people wanted to do residency and citizenship programs, but didn't know how to do them. Now, obviously, in terms of any of these residency programs, it's really not just about getting the residency, it's about doing it in the best possible way to get the best type of investments. And that's really where we could stand out, because we've got the experience of an investment firm. We can actually look at what are the very best assets that are available that can get you the citizenship and residency. So for us, investment is really the priority. To get you the best possible investments is the priority. We do have exclusive investments as well. Last year in Portugal was probably the most popular program, which I'll talk a little bit about today, but I will do some more webinars about Portugal because that still remains open. But last year we did over 450 applications for Portugal. We were actually the #1 provider for the golden visa in Portugal and in Spain. And we've got a 100% success rate on getting applications through, which is really important. So we've got the back office team here to know exactly what we need to do to get an application through, whether that's Spain, whether it's Portugal, but we do all the different golden visa programs that are out there as well. We're rated excellent on Trustpilot. We've got numerous industry awards as well. So hopefully that sort of reassures you in terms of who you're dealing with at Holborn Assets. So in terms of the Spanish golden visa and what we know, so again, I'm probably telling you this bit you already know, but it was basically last year that Pedro Sanchez, the Spanish Prime Minister, came out and said he wants to eliminate the golden visa program. And the reason for that was the perceived correlation to the housing market. So the idea that house prices were becoming unaffordable for people living in Spain because of the golden visa. Obviously, people buying properties push prices up. Whether that's true or not is a completely different topic. I mean, I believe the statistics are somewhere in the region of 0.5% of property purchases last year were in relation to the Spanish golden visa. So it's really not going to, arguably, it's not going to do very much removing this, but it's just potentially with the new government coming to Spain, I think it was a bit of a move to be seen to be doing something more than it actually being an effective move. But needless to say, we have no choice about it. This is happening now, and the update that we got about a month or so ago is that all routes to the Spanish golden visa will be removed. So not just a property, but investment routes, any type of routes, whether that's donations. There's a number of routes you can go down, which was something we weren't necessarily expecting, because if we look at Portugal, the year before, Portugal removed, or were going to remove, their golden visa program. But what they ultimately did is just remove property as an option. They retained the option of investing into funds or into businesses to get golden visa. They just removed property. So Portugal remains open. For anyone watching this, if Spain is not achievable, Portugal remains open. And there are some unique benefits about Portugal, which I will touch on today. But as I say, we know that the Spanish golden visa is going to go. And that's all forms of the Spanish golden visa as well. As of today, it remains the same. The actual date of it coming in hasn't happened yet. But what will happen is that essentially on January the 3rd this year, the government published the final law in the official state gazettes. That effectively made the law real, if you like. And that was on January the 3rd. So under Spanish law, it would take 3 months to come into effect. So you've got 3 months from January the 3rd is when this will come into effect. So essentially, April the 3rd is when, if the last time, essentially, you can apply. So you would need to have your asset in place, and you would have to have made the application for the golden visa by the 3rd of April in order to qualify. Now, really importantly with this, and it's written into Spanish law here as well, they can't take something away from that you've already got. So if you've got a benefit like the golden visa and you already got your foot in the door and you've got the asset and you've applied and you've got the golden visa, then essentially they can't take it away from you. So it's once it's there, it's there. So you can renew as long as you keep that asset. You can continue to benefit from the golden visa. So in terms of what we do for any clients that are interested, we do essentially the whole service from start to finish. So the idea for us really is to find out what the best options are, the best investment options for our clients. We do all the due diligence on these investment options. We appoint solicitors. We open bank accounts, we open tax numbers for our clients. We actually even file tax returns on their behalf once they've got the asset. We apply for the golden visa, we do all the paperwork. So essentially we do everything for you to make it as easy as possible. So it's a start to end service that we offer. So there's lots of information on there, but essentially it's the whole process. So people looking to use us, we use our experience to basically do everything for you, so you can just kind of sit back and relax. Furthermore, as well, with regards to Spain, you don't have to actually come over to Spain until very late in the process. And that's to do your biometrics. So you have to do your biometrics, your fingerprints, your photographs, but that's not till very late in the process. So actually we do a power of attorney for our clients, and we can essentially do all the opening of the bank accounts, getting the tax numbers, and we can do all that for you. So it's a very easy process for people looking to do it. Now, in terms of the timelines, now this is the normal timeline for the Spanish Golden Visa. So normally, if you're looking at an asset that you're looking to buy, so whether that's property, whether it's commercial property or residential property, when you look to buy that asset, it normally takes around 3 or 4 months. You can see in month 4, that's normally the point where we've got the deeds done. So you need the deeds done on a property in order to be able to then apply for the golden visa. Now, obviously, the issue with that is that it can take quite a long time to do the deeds. And particularly here in Spain, sometimes processes can take quite a long time because we need to essentially get your tax number. We need to open you a bank account. We need to transfer funds into that bank account. From that bank account, then to purchase a property. We then get the deeds done, and that's normally in month 3. Now, we can push this through quicker, and this is the really important part of this for people still looking to do it. We have options that we can still push through in time, but it's going to be close. We've only got a couple of weeks to do this if you are interested. What actually happens once you've got the golden visa, so after you've got the property, you've sent off, you've got your golden visa, and that's all been approved, it's then after that you need to come over here and do your biometrics. But essentially, when you first get that golden visa in month 3 to 4, then that's giving you the right for the next year to live, to work, and to stay, to travel to Spain. It's then in the following months you then go and do your biometrics and all that sort of side of things. So what we've introduced for people that are looking to do this, and this is really important. So a lot of people, for example, want to do this, but they might need to sell their property, or they might need to release money, which can take time. So what we've done is we've introduced an investment option. So it's a property investment option, which I'll talk a little bit about further on in this presentation, which actually only requires an initial 50,000 deposit. Now, on the basis of the 50,000 deposit, we can do the power of attorney, we can get your tax number, and we can do all that within 1 month. We can then get you registered on the deed for the investment property, and we can then apply for the golden visa. The balance, so the remaining amount, which I'll come on to what that is, will be due within 6 months. So what this helps you with, if you've got a cash flow problem and you're needing to do this, then obviously this is a way you can do it for as little as 50,000. I'll come on to the investment itself later on, but it will help for people that maybe have a cash flow problem as such, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Now, in terms of the different programs that we have, now we do all these different citizenship programs, we do all the different residency programs out there as well. So when you're looking at citizenship programs, a citizenship program essentially gives you a passport for a particular country. So with these citizenship programs, we've got Antigua, St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, St. Kitts, Vanuatu, Malta, and Turkey. Now, these aren't European countries, so a lot of people obviously watching this and they're looking for an EU passport, an EU residency. Now, they tend to be with the EU residency program. So a residency is slightly different than citizenship, which I'll talk a little bit about later on. But residency essentially gives you the right to live, work and retire in the country, but you don't have the passport as such. Now, normally after a period of time, you can convert that residency to a passport, and that depends on what country we're looking at. So when I look at Spain here, and I just want to go through the main requirements of Spain if you're not aware. Now, you can change your residency in Spain to a passport after living here, or after having it for 10 years. Now, you need to live here for 5 years of the 10 years. So the last 5 years, you'd have to live here. But in year 10, you can convert your residency so your golden visa as such, into a passport. The minimum investment for the property here is 500,000. So you need 500,000 euros invested into property in Spain. That could be commercial or residential, and that will get you the golden visa. Now, we focus on commercial property because ultimately it's a lot cheaper. The transfer taxes on a commercial property are a lot less than they are on a residential property. So when you're looking at a property of 500,000, a commercial property would typically cost you around 40 or 50,000 euros less in transfer taxes than what a residential property would cost you. So it's a really good way of doing it. Then at a later point, you can sell that asset, you can buy a residential property, and that's fine. But it obviously gets your foot in the door for a lot less money. Ultimately, when people move over to Spain, they don't necessarily know where they want to live. So this obviously allows you time to find where you want to live. You can include children up to the age of 18. You can actually include children over 18 as long as we can prove that they're dependent. So people at university, we can include them all on the one application of the 500,000. You can even include dependent parents on the application. So dependent parents that are 65 or over, if we can prove they're dependent, which we know what we need to do that, then we can add them to the application. And that's for one investment of 500,000. So you can bring your whole family along. Furthermore, we do our investment for 350,000, not 500,000, and we can do this by actually having the rental income of the property paid up front. So essentially, you pay 350,000, and 150,000 is paid up front as rental income, and that gives you the 500,000. So it's a huge benefit of the program. It's important to note as well, when we talk about passports and it being 10 years to get your passport, if you are an ex-Spanish colony country, so I'll go through this a little bit later, you can actually get your passport in as little as 2 years. So if you apply, say, using a Colombian passport or a Brazilian passport, so it's an ex-Spanish colony, and I'll go through the countries. Then essentially, you can actually convert get your passport in only 2 years. So it's a huge benefit. I mentioned before about Portugal. So just to make you aware, the advantage to Portugal, and the reason a lot of people do like Portugal, is you can actually get your passport in only 5 years. Now, you can't invest in property anymore, but you can invest in investment funds or small businesses, which we can do on behalf of our clients. The minimum investment is, again, 500,000, but there are various options where you can do it for as little as 325,000 by looking at investments that pay interest up front. So we've got these sort of options for clients as well. So if that's of interest, do contact me. So after 5 years with Portugal, you can then convert your residency into citizenship. So you can get your passport. Again, it's got a similar kind of criteria in terms of adding dependent parents and children on. So it's a very good way of doing it. So Spain is very good from this point of view. You can do it in 2 years, 10 years if you're not ex-Spanish colony, and Portugal is 5 years. In terms of actually having to stay in Spain, as I say, if you convert to the passport, you have to spend the last 5 years over 6 months of each of them years in Spain, and then you can convert to a passport. But if you don't convert to a passport, if you just want to hold on to the asset that gives you the golden visa, you don't actually have to spend any time in Spain at all. There is zero requirements to stay in Spain. So you can have the asset and you can say, move over here in 3 years' time. You've still got your golden visa. So it's a huge benefit of Spain. With regards to Portugal, you do have to come over, but it's very minimal. So I think it's 1 week in the first year, and then it's 2 weeks in each 2-year period following that. So essentially, it's a week a year. So it's like having a holiday in Portugal. And then after 5 years, you can convert that to a passport. So again, a really good program. But these are the different programs we do. So anyone interested in this, then obviously, just let me know. We can go through that with you. In terms of Spain, people say, why Spain? Well, it's ranked #1 country worldwide for quality of life. I've lived here for the last 7 years. It's a real sort of relaxed lifestyle here. It's very laid back, easy lifestyle. It's the second most visited country by international tourists as well. We've got the 4th biggest economy in the EU and the 14th in the world. So the economy here, certainly if you live here, you do see it sort of strengthening in terms of new businesses open. Obviously, Spain, like a lot of other countries, suffered going back a number of years in the recession, but it's really coming out of it very strongly now. It's voted the 5th best country to live in. sixth best retirement destination in the Global Retirement Index, and it's got the seventh best public healthcare system. We've used it a number of times here. And my wife's parents live here. They use the healthcare system, and it is very good. It's a very strong healthcare system. So it's a really great place to retire. In terms of the golden visa itself, it started back in 2013. It says over 9,000 approved golden visa applications. It's way over that now. We're around 15,000 plus. There's been a real influx. Obviously, since the withdrawal, a lot of people are really looking to do this, and they have been over the coming months. We've known for really the last 9 months it was going. So the applications have really increased. It's raised over 3.5 billion in foreign direct investment. So, it has raised a lot of money for the Spanish economy. And as I say before, the advantage of the Spanish golden visa is you don't need to spend any time in Spain. So you can essentially now get the qualifying asset, not spend any time in Spain, and then at a future point come over here to live and retire. So it's a really unique golden visa option. Any non-EU citizens can apply as long as you've got no criminal record. Obviously, if it's a minor criminal record, it's not such an issue, but again, we can look at that for you and sort of tell you whether that would hold you back or not. And as I say, you can include spouses, children, and parents. So on the one investment option, you can include all your family on that, which is again another sort of huge benefit of it. So the Spain Golden Visa essentially gives you the right to live and to work in Spain. You can freely travel and stay in all of the 26 Schengen countries as well. You can establish a business in these countries as well. There are tax benefits in Spain as well. If you might have heard of the Beckham's law, again, we can point you in the right direction for tax advice, but there can be sort of tax advantages here in Spain as well under the Beckham's law. And you get access to pension and to the healthcare system here as well, which is, again, a very strong system. The Spanish passport as well. So this is what we were speaking about before. So in terms of when you apply, if you are from an Spanish colony country, so that's Argentina, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Equatorial Guinea, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico, Nicaragua, Panama, Peru, the Philippines, Uruguay, and Venezuela. In addition, there's Andorra and Portugal, but it's not so relevant because they're European countries anyway. But if you have got a passport from one of those countries, when you apply for the golden visa, you can actually then convert that into the passport in as little as 2 years. You'll have to spend more than 6 months in them 2 years in Spain to essentially become tax resident in Spain for the 2 years. But then in year 3, you can change that over to a passport. And the Spanish passport is ranked the #2 passport in the world this year. So it's a really strong passport. For anybody else, is after 10 years, you can convert over to a Spanish passport, and you'd have to spend the last 5 years spending more than 6 months a year, so being tax resident for the last 5 years. For a lot of people, they don't necessarily want to become a citizen. They don't necessarily want the passport. You can still live here. You don't have the right to vote. There's a few other things you would be excluded from. But generally speaking, the right to live, to work, to retire in Spain is obviously what a lot of people want. They don't necessarily want to travel amongst other European countries, which is where the Spanish passport really sort of gives you the benefit. The requirements to get the passport is you would have to do a basic language level test. You have to do a cultural exam, and bear in mind, if you've been living here for that sort of 5 years, it would be very difficult to do this, but bear in mind you have to do that. And as I say, you have to live in Spain 2 years for an ex-colony, or 5 years if you're not an ex-Spanish colony, to qualify. It says third best passport in the world. It is actually second best passport in the world now. So you've got a really strong passport. So having a Spanish passport in terms of traveling, working, and freedom of movement throughout Europe is really second to none. It's a fantastic thing to have. And obviously, once you get the citizenship and the passport, you no longer then need the qualifying asset that you'd have. So, which I'll come on and explain some of the assets we have. But the property itself you have can be sold because you wouldn't need it anymore. And you can travel to 190 countries visa-free. So the Spanish passport is really strong. And as I say, live and work anywhere in the EU. So in terms of what your investment options are, okay, so the main popular route for most people is the real estate option. Now, with the real estate option, you've got to invest a minimum of 500,000 into property. And now that can be any type of property. It could be commercial property, it could be residential property, it could even be buying a car parking space for 500,000. It just has to be into what they essentially categorize as real estate. Now, as I mentioned before, we can do it for less by essentially having rental income paid up front, which I'll come on to. The other routes that you can get the Spanish Golden Visa, which will also be being removed, is equity in a business, which is 1 million, bank deposit or investment fund, which is again 1 million, or government bonds, which is 2 million. So you can see, obviously, being a lot more expensive, they are less popular, and all of these are going to be removed very, very shortly. So what we're focusing now is very much on real estate and how we can get real estate through. Now, if you've got real estate already that's valued at 500,000 or more, then you can apply for the Spanish Gold Visa. You'd have to move very quickly. We can only help people who are using our investment options, but you would need to contact somebody to help you get the Golden Visa, but you won't have much time. So you'd have to really get somebody involved who is really going to be switched on and getting this done in the timescales that we've got left. Bear in mind as well, the property value will always go on what you purchased a property for. So, and it could be any property purchased after 2013. So, for example, if you purchased a property in 2015 for 400,000, for example, and you now think it's now worth 500 or 550,000, it would still only go on the value of the 400,000. Or the 450,000, because that's what you bought it for. So it's always on the purchase price. So be aware of that. So what we're looking at in terms of available options and options that we can potentially help with, there are different ways of doing this. Now, residential options, if people are looking at residential, then you would have to already have the property, because there simply would not be time for this to go through now. We're right now at the end of January. It would be very difficult to get that through on residential. The other thing about residential property as well, just to guide you, as I say, first and foremost, we're an investment company, but with residential property, you're typically looking at taxes between 8 and 11.5% when you purchase a residential property, depending on the region. So that's going to be up to 40,000 euros more than a commercial investment at 500,000. So typically, as an investment firm, we recommend looking at commercial first. You don't have to get involved in any of the day-to-day running of the property, anything like that. But simply, it will cost you less to buy. And then at a later point, you can buy a residential property, and that can then qualify you as well. So that's why we look at the commercial side of it. Commercial also has higher rental yields. So typically, a commercial property will have a rental yield of around 4 to 5%. So that tends to be another reason why people will look at that. There are other benefits as well in terms of squatters and things such as that. There are more residential can be a bit risky if you're going to buy somewhere and rent it out. So commercial is a really good way of looking at it. But obviously, a lot of people don't want to manage the day-to-day running of a commercial asset, and that's really where we step in. We will actually do the full management service on the asset as well. So really, it's looking at this as a rational decision, not an emotional decision. A lot of people think, well, no, residential property. Now, with commercial assets, now this is, let's say, we've changed a little bit about what we do. We used to look at two different options. First of all, we could look at commercial properties for 500,000, which we still can potentially do, but I think we're going to be very short of time if we do that. If you look at one at 500,000, you can then get a rental yield of between 4 and 5%. You can have that looked after for you, so you can have a passive income coming in. But as I say, we might be short of time of doing that. We also do another option, which is a sale and leaseback option, which is what I'm going to talk about, which is a 350,000 option, which by far is the most popular route. Now, the way we're doing this is through a hotel project in Madrid. So it's a Hotel San Blas. So Hotel San Blas is part of the Soho boutique hotels in Spain. So if you live in Spain like I do, you'll be very familiar with them. They've got 48 hotels located all around Spain. So as I say, I think there's about four hotels near here, just within sort of a half an hour or 40-minute drive up here. So they're building a new boutique hotel, which has got 66 rooms in the Madrid's business district. So there's a lot of need in Madrid for business services and business hotels. Now, for anybody investing into the hotel Sandblast, they're raising money privately. So they're going to raise it through private investors. Now, this would qualify you for the golden visa. Anybody investing the money, the security is against all of their 48 hotels, not the one they're building. So it's not, there's not risk from that point of view because obviously they have the assets already there. Now, the benefits of this is that essentially you pay 350,000 into the investments. That's your investment. And the hotel will pay 3% yield for the next 10 years paid up front. So they will give you 150,000 immediately to add to your 350,000, and that will give you the 500,000. Now, do bear in mind there are costs associated with, because you would have a withholding tax of 18,000, so that would have to be held back. And obviously you've got your legal costs and that side of things, but we can give you quotes for that. But essentially it's a 350,000 investment that you're making, and you're getting 150,000 up front. The VAT is paid by the developer, so you don't pay any VAT. And this is what makes this so popular, is that there's a guaranteed buyback in year 10. So in year 10 of the operations, the hotel themselves will, written into the contract, will buy it back off you for 500,000. So you invest 350,000 and you're guaranteed to get the 500,000 back in year 10. And in year 10, that's when you would qualify for the passport. So you would no longer need to have the asset. You then have the passport, and you've then got the investment. So it's a very secure investment. The 3%, obviously, if you buy a commercial property yourself, then you expect a yield of around 4 or 5%. The reason it's less that they're giving you at 3% is essentially you don't pay any of the ongoing taxes, you don't pay any ongoing maintenance, you don't have anything to do with it. It's actually all done on your behalf. Taxes are filed on your behalf. You don't do anything. So it's a really, really easy way of getting a golden visa without really having to do anything. That's all managed on your behalf. You also get a 7-day complimentary stay in any of the Soho boutique hotels. I don't think this is really a massive selling point, but you do get a complimentary stay there per renewal period for the golden visa. The other thing about this, which we've introduced, so the cost of this is 350,000. But what we've allowed people to do is secure it with only 50,000. So if you can get 50,000 and you've got more money coming in, say a month or two, that wouldn't be due for another 6 months. But that 50,000 will allow us to then invest on your behalf and get the deed registered in your name. The completion date for the hotel is Q4 2025. So it's going to be at the end of this year. It's all on track to be built. I believe, although there was 60, the investors' initial call, there's not too many places left. I think we've got about 8 or 9 places left because it's become a very popular way of doing it. So that's where we stand at the moment. What I suggested, anybody watching this, you've got my number there on the bottom, which is 00447969059122. You've got my email address there, sam.dades@holbornassets.com. The key takeaway from this is really, we've only really got about 2 weeks in order to take applications on. Anything after the 2 weeks, we won't have enough time to do it. So if it's something that you are interested in doing, please contact me on the numbers that I put on the screen there. We'll send a copy of this webinar out to you as well, so you can go back through any of the information. But as I say, we're concentrating on the hotel option. You have the guarantees in there, the guaranteed buyback of 500,000, and your investment is 350,000. We can give you quotes depending on the amount of people that you're going to put on the application, but we do the whole process. We do the start to finish process for you, appoint the solicitors, open your bank account, open your tax numbers, manage the investment on your behalf. So you don't get involved in it at all. It's just essentially a way of getting you the golden visa, and you're going to get your 3% return on it. So as I say, anybody interested in that, please contact me. We'll send a copy of this out to anybody that's registered for the webinar. But as I say, please, anybody interested in doing this, we really do only have 2 weeks. I think anything past that, we wouldn't be able to give you the guarantee we can get it through in time. Anybody looking to do it now, and in the next sort of 7-14 days, we can get it through. Obviously, first of all, speak to myself, one of the advisors here. We can go through it in more detail, send you all the information out. So if this is something you're interested in, please let us know. Drop me an email or a WhatsApp, and we can look at that for you. As I say, once it's gone, it's gone. But once you're in, you're in. So once you've got the golden visa, essentially, it can't be taken away, and you can carry on renewing it every 5 years until you get your passport, or even if you never get your passport, you can just keep hold of it. So once you're in, you're in. It's a really good way that the Spanish system works. So anyway, I hope you found that useful. As I say, please make a note of the number. We'll send that out for you, and hopefully we can get anything through in time if you are interested to do it. As I say, all you need is a minimum of 50,000 if you're going to use us to start with, and the remainder would have to be paid within 6 months. Anyway, thanks very much for joining me, and I hope you all found it useful.